Part 2 of the process of the manual install for WordPress is to set up the database that we're going to use for WordPress. So I'm in my cPanel here, and I'm just going to go down to the database section and click on databases. That will bring up this tab over here. And there are three things that we need to do in this tab. We need to first create a database, second, create a user to use that database, and then third, give the user privileges to actually use the database. So three things that we need to do. Now, for this, I'm going to create a database called manual to go with my manual install. I believe you'll be constrained to making this 8 letters or less here. And then I can just click create the database. And it's going to be Bill M581 _ manual. This is a very standard sort of process for shared hosting that's using cPanel to use your username and an underscore in front of the name of the database. So we will create that database. It's created. I can go back. And then the next step is to create a user. So down here, I'm going to create a user that has the same name. It doesn't have to be the same name, but I think it's a little bit easier in the long run for maintaining it if you have a database with the same name as the same user. And you'll notice that the Softalicious script, when we set that up, it did the same thing here. It set up a user and a database that have the same name. So that's pretty normal. Next, we need a password. This is the password that WordPress is going to use to talk to the database. We don't need to remember this password or use this password as we're making posts or pages or anything like that, or logging into WordPress or anything. This is something that sits in the WordPress software that allows the WordPress software to put content into the database. So I generally use this password generator to generate some crazy password that I'm never going to remember, and to copy it. So I'm pressing Command C on my keyboard to copy that. And yes, I've copied this, and choose Use Password. We can then take that password and stick it in a document, such as a text edit file, just for temporary storage for the moment while we're doing this. Okay, so there's my password. I'll make that bigger so you can see it. That's the password that WordPress is going to use. Okay, so we've got that, and then I'm going to create the user. User's created, go back. The third step in the process is to let the user use the database. So here I have a database, but no privileged user. I've created the user, I need to attach the user to the database, and I do that down here at the bottom of the page. I tell manual can use manual, and I click add and check all privileges. Always check all privileges. It just makes it much easier. And then make changes and go back. Now you can see here manual has access to the manual database. Now it's important to note that at this point the database is empty. We've created the database, there's nothing in it. There's not a single thing in the database. It's just an empty database. We created the database, we created the user, we told the user they can use the database, but the database is empty. Over here I can see that the database is empty. If I refresh this, I now have a database called manual, and if I click on it, there's nothing in here. No tables found in database. It's just an empty database. Nothing in here. When we come back in a few minutes during the installation of our WordPress, WordPress will add a bunch of tables into the database for us. But for right now, we just need to have the empty database so that we can go ahead and run the installer script that WordPress comes with, so that it will create the tables and create everything we need to make our WordPress installation go. We will take a look at that process in the next video.